These people are waiting for the appearance of a living legend. In a moment, he'll step from the door of this aircraft to a scene that's even more familiar to him. The tribe of Judah, elect of God, King of kings, Emperor of Ethiopia. Supposed to live. Only a handful of foreigners had reached its interior and found among its mountains the source of the Blue Nile. Fact and legend. There are still 50,000 people like these in Ethiopia who call themselves Jews of the House of Israel. Haile Selassie's imperial crest, the star crowns the Lion of Judah, the central Ethiopian symbol, begotten from Sheba, who bore a son to King Solomon, and called him Menelik, the first Ethiopian emperor. Here in the 12th century, the Emperor Lalibela carved out of the rock the churches of what he hoped would be a new Jerusalem. It was the empire's capital for 100 years. A tradition that the monks of Lalibela still voice in a haunting mixture of orthodox plain chant In the long struggle with Islam, church and state became inseparable, and the Christian powers of the 19th century, they came to rest again in renewed splendor. manner, but challenged at every step by powerful feudal barons, as the kings of medieval England used to be. Only the church held Ethiopia together, and gradually authorities shifted again. In his mountain fortress at Magdala. When 5 years of diplomacy failed to secure their release, the British at last sent a military expedition to recover them. It was a ponderous exercise, but effective. When Ethiopia showed that it could, after all, resist the power of Europe. When Menelik's army in these mountains defeated an Italian invasion at the Battle of Adowa. The year was 1896, and the traditional Ethiopian painting tells the story of a modern awakening. For days on end, the drink ran like water, and the tables were red with the blood of raw meat. In the rejoicing, the Ethiopians hardly noticed that they had still to pay a price for their independence. Into this strange twilight world between yesterday and today, Haile Selaassie was born. Now, after 80 years, he looks back on a lifetime that has spanned the gap between the 2,000 years stayed with the young Haile Selassie's father in the town of Harar. Harar then was a newly conquered province of Menelik's empire, taken from Muslim hands. Haile Selassie's father, Ras McConnell, was Menelik's governor for Harar and a favorite to succeed to the throne. In Muslim hands, Harar had been a secret city, closed to non-Muslims for centuries. 40 years earlier, the British explorer Richard Burton had only been able to get here disguised as an Arab. He didn't think Haile Selassie's father can take some credit. He allowed French priests to open this little mission school in the town and sent his son, Tafari McConnell, to learn from them. 70 years later, French is still the only foreign ways of the old world to the revolutionary demands of the new. So, throughout his boyhood, the young Tafari lived happily in his father's house, with a future that seemed secure. But suddenly, his father died, and Tafari passed at once from security into a world of medieval intrigue. He was only 13. Menelik was dying, paralyzed. Joined Ethiopia's other barons in swearing an oath of loyalty to his rival. As a reward, he was sent to his father's old job as governor of Harar. And as the guns opened up on Europe's western front 4,000 miles away, the contest in Ethiopia took an older shape. Christianity once again prepared for a clash with Islam. In Europe, the bloodiest of modern wars was being fought with tanks, machine guns, and poison gas. Lasted a full day, surging one way and then another. But in the end, the man who rode back to Addis Ababa in triumph was Rastafari. It was a victory that he still recalls as the turning point of his life. But almost immediately, he was embroiled in the outcome of the other war in Europe. The French were already in Ethiopia. They had completed a railway from the coast to Addis Ababa in 1918. It was Ethiopia's first physical link with the modern world, and it helped to establish Addis as a permanent center of Ethiopian government, as no capital had ever been before. Open drains. He had to fight poverty and tradition, but he was still throne when the Empress Zauditu died. Crowned emperor at last at the age of 38, Tafari took the royal name of Haile Selaassie, meaning the mighty Trinity. His coronation was attended by men of At this moment, Ethiopia seemed about to be the first country in black Africa to step hopefully into the modern world. Instead, the modern world marched almost at once into Ethiopia, far more brutally than before. Benito Mussolini, the Italian dictator, that Haile Selaassie himself hoped to end. He told his soldiers they had a civilizing mission. As the Nazi troops marched, Western statesmen quailed at the thought of a new war.
All wars are horrible.
Go on arms sales to both sides. For Italy, with her own arms, the embargo was a green light. For Ethiopia, it was a death sentence. But for Haile Selaassie, the final betrayal came at the League of Nations. Pierre Laval, the French foreign minister, and Sir Samuel Hoare for Britain, proposed to hand part of Ethiopia to Mussolini. Appeasement had triumphed. Collective security was a myth. At Adwa. Now Mussolini's troops had their revenge. Within a month, Ethiopia's first capital at Aksum had fallen, and over 2,000 years of independence were nearly at an end. Abandoned by his international friends, Haile Selaassie found even his own men unwilling to fight on. He had only a handful of trained troops. The rest were On the 2nd of May, his family took the train from Addis Ababa to Djibouti. The jeers of fascists in the gallery did not stop him. I am here to claim justice. gathering storm of war that his downfall had started. Hitler Britain and France declared war on Hitler's Germany. The age of appeasement was over. But as Europe went rekindled, the Lion of Judah had returned. Ethiopia rejoiced, and so did Haile Selaassie. For him, it was one of the greatest moments of his life, a chance to start again. Daily walk among the lions that symbolizes imperial power, he reflects now that at that moment of return he was already 50 and had accomplished little. Language. Fundamentally, Haile Selassie was back with the same ramshackle empire he had won before. Had 20 million people, 100 different tribes, and 50 different languages, and was twice the size of France. It was a proud empire. Pagan or Muslim, yet were ruled by a Christian monarch, whose church was still the only source of unity. A secluded empire, where life had remained unchanged for centuries. An empire, in fact, as backward and conservative as anywhere in the world. against colonial rule. He alone had been the first martyr of the old Leagued Nations and was now a founder and guide of the new United Nations. And set up shop in Addis Ababa. Diplomats and businessmen flocked in. Within a decade, the face of Addis Ababa was transformed. The signs of international affluence towered over the old open drains. With the bankers and diplomats came foreign money and foreign aid. There were new ports, new roads. Today, Haile Selaassie is besieged by foreign delegations hoping to catch his ear. He balances these contemporary forces to strengthen his own independence as shrewdly as he juggled half a century ago with the rival tribes and princes in his old fight for power. One day it may be a Japanese delegation, the next day a mission from Maoist China. It doesn't matter what political persuasion they are, they all see Haile Selaassie as an essential link to the rest of Africa. At home or abroad, half his life country. At home, he seems all-powerful, adding to the natural mystery of a divine monarchy the artificial cult of personality. His name is everywhere. Yet the one thing Haile Selaassie has not prevailed his people live within a day's ride of any sort of road. It's over 60 years since Haile Selaassie in his youth started his career The governor still needs guards to protect him, servants to tend him, even interpreters to translate for him, because hardly anybody in the remoter provinces speaks the language of the emperor's government. It's government in the medieval style, and modern Addis Ababa seemed an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Every weekend you see gatherings like this scattered around the highland villages. It's a combination one man, he can expect short shrift. In every village marketplace, the public gallows still waits for the murderer. Train, few other schools existed. 90% of his people remained totally illiterate. Nearly half the population of Ethiopia now is under the age of 15, and for Haile Selassie their education has always been an obsession. He's taken personal charge of the Ministry of Education, sought teachers and money for more schools, the educated middle-aged are rebellious too. They owe their privileges to the emperor as much as to anyone, but they whisper their discontent in the posh bars of Addis every night and can't wait for the old man to go. But the old man's still there, as shrewd and ruthless against novel discontents. Some of the latest challengers to Haile Selassie's rule combine the old and the new Ethiopian divisions and discontents. but it hasn't always been easy for him to deal with his army. His soldiers now are a far cry from the barefoot small, especially in this century. To have survived them for wonder, the Lion of Judah has become one of the living legends of our time.